Welcome to the Rivalry roster rundown. So Lacoste and I are going to go through not all the rosters, but we're going to take a look at a very select Southeast Asian team and then kind of move across through CIS, EU, and NA to talk about what we expect for the upcoming DPC. So welcome, Lacoste. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you. That was a lot of R's in your intro, and you didn't mess it up, so
yeah, the secret there is practice. Didn't mess it up.
So, we're going to start with FNATIC, as you mentioned, one of the SEA teams. Huge changes in their roster. Envy left. Same goes for Universe and Pylai. So, and new stars in the team are ICIS, MP, and Jabs.
Yeah, and so we saw them go, they were this like NA transplant into Southeast Asia, and now they're actually a Southeast Asian team again.
Yeah, exactly. So the thing about them, if you want to compare it, let's say skill-wise to certain players, I would rate ICIS and Universe really high, top 5 offlaners probably. So they didn't get anything out of this trade if you just look at the position 3.
Yeah, so what about the differences between, I want to say stability is the word I'm going to choose. Like Universe is very reliable and ICIS is creative, but it doesn't always work.
Well, he can be, I'm going to call it weird sometimes. He has a pretty unique set of heroes that he plays, so a lot of teams focus on banning out ICIS, which is always great to have that one guy in a team. So the other guy who joined is MP. I didn't see too much of Mental Protector since MVP and the Team Secret during 2017 roster. I think at the moment, at that time, 2017, he was the weakest link of Team Secret. So I'm not sure how much he improved. When I say the weakest link, maybe because they didn't play around him, he was kind of a sacrificial carry. That could be the problem, that they didn't adapt to what MP can do. I know that he loves to play aggressive during the MVP time. He was amazing. This is the kind of a team that had a unique play style, similar to some of the top Russian teams, but also way more aggressive. They create a lot of chaos, and it's hard to adapt to that. They don't give you enough space to breathe.
And that was that the MVP that got, it was top 6 at that TI, right? So even though they had the aggression,
yeah, I think so.
It worked really well for them, yeah. Yeah, he's been playing on Immortals this past year, and yeah, we didn't really see anything from Immortals when they were playing in NA. They were the Southeast Asian team that came over to NA rather than the FNATIC version.
Yeah, Immortals kind of kicked off great at the start. First couple of weeks, they were doing just fine. Then they couldn't just find what they want to play. It seems a little bit too chaotic even for them to adapt to those situations. So I'm not sure if they even attended anything significant in the previous season.
I don't think they made it to anything. They Dream League Season 9 is all I'm seeing on their Wikipedia page. So I think that's the only tournament they made it to this past year. So MP definitely has some changes for FNATIC, because I think this FNATIC lineup's looking to be incredibly strong for Southeast Asia. The question I have is Jabs. He's this great support, but DJ and Jabs are both traditionally 4 positions.
Yes. So the question is, how is Jabs going to adapt, right, to position 5? Both of them are, I would rate DJ a better position 4 in my book, because he creates way more space, plays greedy, always has the right item choice though, so that could be his strength. But Jabs, I don't think he's gonna, since there's pretty much now position 4 and 5 is pretty much the same role, because you're not roaming around, you're just being at the lane, trading hits, so it's basically the same role.
Yeah,
so I don't think Jabs is gonna
Is this his first time captaining? Because I don't think he's captained any of his past squads. He certainly wasn't Mineski's captain.
Yeah, I don't remember him captaining any of the teams, but also I don't think he's gonna have a problem adapting to what he's gonna play at position 5.
All right, so FNATIC overall, they win. They do well with this shuffle. Do we think they'll be better off?
I think this roster is going to be way stronger than what FNATIC had in the previous season. In my opinion, these players from the same region will probably gel together better, in my opinion.
And I think there's also something to be said, just captaining from the core role is really challenging. I had an interview with Envy like a month ago where he said he can't see the game. Like when he's in the laning stage, he can't even see his own supports. He just like sees his lane, and that made captaining very, very challenging for him. So even FNATIC switching to having a captain that is also a support should be a pretty big boost for them strength-wise.
Yeah, I'm surprised that some of the teams were sticking to having a non-position 4/5 captain, which is pretty weird. We're still living in 2018. That they should have ditched that stuff in probably 2015. Just adapt.
Well, you know, we can jump ahead a teeny bit. We'll come back to it. But hey, Envy is changing his ways. So when we get over to NA, we can talk about that. But if you want to move into CIS, what are the teams that you're looking at there?
So CIS, pretty much it's Virtus Pro, who is on top of the list. They didn't change anything, but we can go through the roster changes. A lot of tier 2.5 teams in CIS region, and the competition is going to be great, especially since the new changes in the DPC system with the minors and majors. So we have Team Empire. Jotum is their coach. That's their newest addition as well. He works as a Russian analyst from time to time. So they have a Kuman, Chappy, Miposhka, and Maiden, I don't know how that's pronounced, plus say UW. That's the guy that I don't know. I don't have any info about him. I know Madden, he played for all those tier 2, tier 3 Russian teams, Effect, what was it, Comanche, Elements. So pretty much CIS region consists of players who at some time they played with each other. So it's kind of a unique region in those terms. I would say that this team doesn't look good on the paper. If you can't find info about a specific player, it's not that great on Wikipedia. If it's red, it's not great.
That being said, Empire has been really great at talent scouting for VP and Na'Vi in the past. So they could be finding the next wonder kid for another CIS team to steal from them.
That's true. Some of the teams really worked that way, as you mentioned, just as a scouting agency for bigger organization who can offer more money. And that's how the real world and real sports work. I'm not sure about this team. Kuman, I remember him playing some great carries at the time when he played for Effect. His Terrorblade was really amazing. He always pairs up nicely with the other top carries, so his GPM is always there. Miposhka, he stayed in Empire. No surprise there. He's a decent player. I guess they wanted to make a team around him. About Chappy. Chappy is a meme himself. So I'm not sure how. If you think about the team composition, you can't just have skilled players. You need to have people who want to play with each other and who are not toxic. So maybe that's the reason why they bring Jotum into this coaching position, so he can maybe work with Chappy. He tends to be really aggressive and toxic from time to time. So maybe in a real team, they can make it work.
Yeah, and Empire, they played in the first round of the Kuala Lumpur Open qualifiers, and they got knocked out by Spirit, who did eventually actually get a slot. So round 2 is happening now, so maybe the roster can get into the CIS main qualifier.
Yeah, we'll see about that. I mean, Chappie, he played for Team Empire before. He's
yeah,
known
he's not a new one.
Yeah, so pretty much you see a lot of these players just rejoining the same organizations all over again. Then we have Elements Pro Gaming. This is the stack of my friends. So we have Swift Ending, Borania, Mitch, DNZ, and LeBron. They've been together for quite some time. They have good conditions. They're going to play in CIS region, even though they're from Europe, because the organization EPG is Russian based. So they are boot camping from Moscow, and they have really good conditions. Since I talk with them a lot, I expect this team to cause some of the upsets in the minors as well. They've been together for quite some time, and they have a good synergy. Also, the thing I have to say about Mitch is I think his downfall was when he decided to play in the teams that are just Balkan based. He doesn't want to speak English. It's easier for him to speak his native language. I think he could have played in tier 1 team if he didn't give himself that opinion that he doesn't want to speak English in foreign teams, I guess.
Yeah, and he's been Elements since, oh my gosh, I'm scrolling through 2016. That's a very long time for one player to stay on a team in Dota.
Yeah, they had, I think Elements had a different team, or they disbanded and they picked them up again. DNZ, also a very calm guy, has a lot of good insights. He played for, what was that, Penta Esports, and they were causing a lot of issues for tier 2 teams. They didn't manage to qualify to many events, but they did to some. Also, LeBron played for Navi. He's going to be that position 5 player for them. Borania, that's the player that I know the least of. Swift Ending had his appearance at TI7 with Hellraisers. He's a young player. He needs a little bit of LAN experience, I think, and the skill is there. He just tended to choke on some big events.
So who's captaining them?
It should probably be DNZ or LeBron. So again, we see a position 4/5 players captaining them.
So do you think they have the chance to upset like Winstrike or VP, or just minors? We're not thinking about the major teams here. Just kind of.
I'd say they can win against Winstrike. Maybe even take a game off Virtus.pro. To be honest, they managed to win their open qualifier slot as well in the CIS region. Besides Team Spirit, as you mentioned. So the other team is Espada. They made no changes, which I'm really glad. So they're going to stick with ILTW, Nyx, BZZ, Immersion, and Misha. They managed to get to finals in the regional TI8 qualifiers. They lost to Winstrike 3-1, if I'm not mistaken. And I'm actually surprised that they stick together, but I'm glad they did it because the team looks really promising. So we have FDB Esports. That's the team that consists of Nefrit, Pikachu, Cheshire Cat, So Bad, and J4. So we have 2 original Power Rangers members. I think everyone liked that team because they were always considered as an underdog. We have a Pikachu who played for some of the teams. I think it was Pro Dota and Double Dimension, maybe even Elements at one time. So all these tier 2, tier 3 teams in CIS scene, again, played a lot with each other. I'm not sure about this team going bid, but they might cause some upsets. Other
the
teams,
names are all very familiar. So again, it's just everybody kind of swapping around in the same spot.
Also, we have Fair Z team, some familiar names there. For Ninja, Afterlife, King R. Most of them played for Empire at one point. I know Daxak from my pubs. Not sure about the last guy who's going to play position 4, position 5. Sorry, not too much to say about them. Also, just a team that kind of gathered to play open qualifiers. If they do good, they'll probably stick together. Not gonna talk too much about them. There are some bigger names. I'm glad that I see Scandal having a team after a long time. He's really old school player playing for the Last Wild Kingdom. Same goes for my friend Excel. That guy really humble, I gotta say. And all of these players are at the top of the EU leaderboards, so they just need to it's hard for them because this Russian mentality in general is in Dota is that they need a captain that they respect, and that team will do good. The biggest example, let's say, is a Virtus Pro. Like if you have a lot of young talent and you have one captain who proves himself in the scene, they're always going to listen to him. So like you just need a stable captain who pretty much had good results in the past. That's why all these teams are pretty much consisted of some young talent who are mechanically skilled, have new ideas, and some old school players that these young ones look up to.
Maybe the next Team Secret roster will just be Puppey plus 4 CIS.
That could be. We're still not in Europe. We can go back to...
Yeah. No, Secret will just become CIS. It'll be great.
Yeah.
We'll just move Puppey back over. So the roster I'm really curious about here is Odium. Because Lil is, he's a character. He's certainly very outspoken about his opinions and everything. And I know when he announced this team, he released some kind of post or monologue or whatever about, you know, playing with a very specific type of player and forming a roster together and everything. And then out came Odium. So that's definitely the crumbling of Na'Vi, as pretty much every single player has left.
Yeah, so General also an interesting character in Dota scene. Sometimes he has performances that blow your mind. Sometimes he just chokes, but overall a cool guy. I like to hang out with. General Ghostic, he's really amazing offlane player. There are a couple of bans that people will need to spend on Ghostic, even though the heroes are not in metagame right now. For example, Legion Commander. This guy always plays aggressive, always have items, good timings. If you give him these blink initiating heroes, he will do a lot. As you mentioned, Lil, didn't see too much out of Lil because Na'Vi was not doing great in the previous season after he got kicked from VP. Yeah. I love Lil. I love Lil because he is kind of a more, I would say, more immature, more angry old PPD. Yeah, I would call him that.
That seems really, really accurate. Lil is the I'm not sure quite exactly how to describe it, but outspoken. Very outspoken.
I'm glad we have him. Yeah, because he makes the scene interesting. If everyone was, let's say, super mannered like Zai, nothing would be happening in the scene. But we need these bad guys in the scene. That's what makes it interesting.
Yeah, and he definitely gives us information about CIS that I don't think we would have normally. You know, kind of like we have Jack tell us everything about China. I feel like Lil gives us a nice look into CIS because he actually posts in English and not always Russian.
Yeah. And we have Seema the Slayer. Seema was kind of the mascot of Vega Squadron. After, I'm not sure if it was 4. It feels like he's been in Vega for at least 4 years. I don't know. I have to check it. And they have V-Tune. So Seema, okay, Lil will be the one who's captaining the team. Mm-hmm. He wants to be the voice probably because he is the loudest one. And we have a V-Tune. That's the player that I don't have any info of.
He's got the red Wikipedia page. So
exactly.
We'll just have to wait and see what they do. Yeah, I just checked. Seema's been in Vega since 2014.
So yeah, so that's 4 years. My inner clock is still working really good. Same goes for Roche timer. It's always accurate. I know when the Roche spawns, even though I don't
So you
write
don't
it
all
down.
chat it like Envy does?
Oh no. And then type oops, or just write down the wrong time to mess with them.
Next level play right there.
Yeah. So the other noticeable Team Spirit, as you mentioned, they already qualified through the opens for Kuala Lumpur regional qualifiers.
Yeah.
Yes, Oliver, also known as Skitter. This is an interesting team. Before, if you wanted to play in CIS, you would need to speak Russian to be able to play in CIS. Now it's a different kind of a story. You see all these European or English-speaking players kind of invading into the CIS region, and we had a little bit of drama a couple of days ago concerning that matter. So we have Oliver, we have Nine. These two players played for Penta together at one point. We also have Hesta Joe. He played for, not sure what the... It was Cloud9. It was Cloud9 at one. I think Cloud9 picked them up, and with the Cloud9 curse, they didn't achieve anything after they picked them up. So, but the guy plays really mean offlane. I remember that he invented the Centaur, like with the no blink dagger. Made the Manta style on Centaur when Return worked on illusions.
Destroy towers, just throwing the illusions at them.
Yeah, but he played it as a carry, just farm oriented, no blink, tank up. So pretty innovative player. We have a Biver, played for Navi, sticking with the team spirit. Really calm guy, brings so much to the table, really knowledgeable. And we have FNG, a lot of respect for FNG. FNG is the captain that the CIS region needs. Really skilled and always has something good to say. So
if we're going to look at all these CIS teams, and so VP and Winstrike obviously sitting at the top right now, who can unseat them? Who's going to be, the surprise roster that we might see at a major or win the minor and then show up at the major?
I would say Team Spirit, they're looking really good. They're looking good on the papers. Watched two of their games from the open qualifiers. They're looking good, but they need a stronger opponent to measure it, I guess. We also have one more team, Vega Squadron. They regrouped. Palantino stayed with the team. Zayats, that guy, I was expecting Zayats to be in a better team. I think... after the roster shuffles, I thought that he's gonna get picked up by a better team, to be honest, because that guy really shines as position 4 players. Position 4 player. Also, we have Yol, an old school name in the CIS scene, and I'm glad that Flo is playing as well. Flo played for Double Dimension and had some health issues. Sadly, it's cancer, but gladly. He's doing fine right now, and I'm really happy to see him back in the scene. These are the kind of stories that make me really happy, especially if he can achieve some great results this season.
So did we see Vega in the open qualifiers? Because I don't see anything on Wikipedia from them. So they maybe just didn't get very far, and it's not even showing up, or they didn't enter them.
Maybe the roster was not ready, or we're probably going to see them in the open qualifier number 2.
Let's see if they can knock anyone out. Yeah, so right now, actually, CIS Open Qualifier 2 has Empire, Navi, and then a bunch of rosters we did not talk about. So it looks like Vega's not in there either. So interesting to see. But maybe we'll see them in the minor qualifiers.
Hopefully, this roster is looking good on the paper. Like you can see the clear difference in CIS scene between, I'd say, Virtus.pro, Winstrike, and Team Spirit is up there. Maybe Espada, not sure how they adapted to this patch, to these 2-1-2 laning stages, because I saw them only playing before TI. But all other teams can make a lot of upsets and are probably on the same skill page, I would say.
All right. So, are we ready to move over to EU and see what's happening over there with all those crazy kids?
Yeah, let's move a little bit to the west.
All right. So what's the? Do you want to start with, like, the big ones? Team Secret's kind of the big team, right? That we would go with there.
Yeah, we can start with Team Secret, Nisha, mid one, Zai, YapzOr, Puppey. So the three cores, YapzOr, Puppey, and mid one are sticking together, which I'm glad. I think they had some problems in their previous roster. Sometimes they're also victims of their own draft. That's just Puppey things. I'm glad Puppey is like that, because if he sees and wants something to work, he's gonna make it work, even if it means losing.
It not working for a while. First.
Yeah, exactly. Even if it means losing 2 or 3 tournaments until he makes it work. So Zai is back in the Secret.
And Zai is back in offlane. So TI5, Team Secret Zai, that season, I have always personally believed that he was the best offlane player that existed when that Team Secret happened, because that Team Secret had issues that were obvious at TI5. However, before that, Zai just carried them again and again, and I thought he played. A lot of players tend to get almost like stuck inside the box. They get limited by the meta, they get limited by the current play style, and they might be very, very good at it, and it works really well, so there's nothing wrong with that. But Zai always felt like someone who did what he wanted no matter what other people were doing. And I thought it really marked him as just like this incredibly skillful offlaner. I love to see him in that position.
If someone wakes me up at 3 a.m. and asks me, give me two players that are consistent, I would just say probably Zai and Universe. That would be my two players. This is the first thing that comes to my mind when I see Zai. Also, we mentioned him in a context where he's always humble, always mannered, never drama involved around him. So this is a great addition to Team Secret.
I asked, like, when I was, around Team Secret and stuff, or would talk to Theban about, like the drafts and everything, he'd just be like, as long as Zai's not bored, he'll be fine. So you just have to give him something not boring, and he'll just carry the game for you.
And the young talent, Nisha. I tweeted about Nisha a couple of days ago. He has been under my radar for a really long time. Since the ATN times, he was outstanding in that team. After that, Kingwin picked him up. His performance was always good, and I like what Puppey is doing, just bringing the raw young talent, even though he has a lot of experience, considering that he's only 19 years old right now. And this is the player to look out for in this season. I was expecting someone to pick up Nisha in the previous season as well. That didn't happen. Kingwin was doing all right at the start of the season, had some upsets in the midterm, but after that, nowhere to be found. So Team Secret, I think this roster is better than what they had in the previous season, in my opinion. I just love the players and the additions that they brought.
Do you think it's better talent-wise or personality-wise? Because I would also say any team with Puppey, you have to have a very balanced personality set to make that work.
Now that's what other players of the team need to consider when you're joining a team. You have one really strong voice that you need to listen to. Otherwise, you're not gonna make it. You mentioned about the talent-wise. I would say Ace played extremely well, just mind-blowing in the first quarter, maybe a bit longer of the season. But after that, it just didn't feel right. He had some good, some bad games, but just didn't feel like it was a good team. I would say, like, maybe I was expecting too much out of them because I love Team Secret, so that could be my issue with the team. Sometimes there's some some emotions involved, so that could be it, even though I try to stay realistic as possible.
Yeah, no, I will always be a Team Secret fan. They're always great to watch, and they had really strong early successes. They crushed Liquid in the Dream League LAN finals at DreamHack Winter in 2017. So that was a major that they won. But it did sort of feel like at TI they skated on DPC points from early on in the season, and they didn't really have much to show in the second half. So at TI they really were kind of running on fumes at that point.
Yeah, I gotta agree on that one. We mentioned Ace, so we can swap to Shangri-La. I'm not sure if they're sponsoring them right now or that's just a name. That's PPD's team. PPD, after conquering North America, moving to Europe. We have Ace, Fata, 33 Saxa, and PPD as a captain. I talked about Ace. He had what I like about Ace is that he has thinking out of the box about the items, about this situation, what needs to be done. Mostly about his itemization. It worked so well at the start, but it kind of got figured out. But I gotta say the strongest part of him is his ability to flash farm, and his itemization, which is kind of unorthodox, I would say. Fata is back on position 2, so a lot of people will love to see that. He excelled on some of the mid heroes. We only need Puck to get back into the meta.
So Fata's mid heroes, just what always comes to mind to me are like Zeus and Dragon Knight, just kind of tanky, armor focused, you know, the kind of heroes that build mech. And I don't actually, and Shadow Fiend a little bit there too. And I don't actually feel like those heroes are what are really popular right now. And so we see teams kind of pull out the surprise Invoker that absolutely runs over everyone. Yeah. And yeah, I'm trying to, I guess Zeus is another one. And then there's just, I don't know, I don't feel like the current mid pool is what we're used to seeing Fata on. So how is he going to do with kind of what's the meta mid right now?
Well, as a player, you don't need that much time to go back. Like even when you're playing pubs, you're practicing other heroes. You don't always get your favorite role. If you're an off-lane player, you're not going to get your position 3 every single game. So you need to adapt. You're going to need to play mid. You're going to need to play support from time to time. So their hero pool is not as shallow as some people might think. So they play a lot of different stuff, and when they start training, they probably buy a Dota Plus right now, and then they mark the ranked role, and they just practice the role that they want to. So this is the ranked role is actually really good for this kind of stuff for pro players, so they can actually practice the heroes in pubs and be certain to have their role which they want to play and want to practice. And they don't need that much time to go back. I mean, he was playing mid, then off lane, now he's back to mid. I don't think he needs much time to transition. The big player...
Broodmother? We need to know if he can pull a surprise awful spider that everyone hates.
If someone's going to play Broodmother on that team, it's going to be 33, so they can still swap. You can, like 33 played off lane, played mid, try to play carry for, was it Hellraisers? That didn't really work well because he played other roles except carry. So this is the kind of an example, because I talked to Milan. His hero pool was kind of limited, but what he plays right now is really amazing. 33, the player that is one of the best in the previous season, I would say. As you mentioned, the Broodmother, I love his builds as well. When he played for Optic Gaming, I remember a couple of games where he goes for Helm of the Dominator, then buys a pipe and just finish the game from there. He uses pipe to give those spiderlings magic barrier and you can't kill him, and he just kills the tower with it. Also, one of the few players who think out of the box with the itemization. And we have Saxa, who's going to be playing position 4, since PPD is that hard 5. I didn't see Saxa, probably no one seen Saxa after their time from Planet Odd. Mm-hmm. They finished second at one international, if I'm not mistaken, when they played at the DC. He played with Misery. So after that, they changed to Planet Odd. I'm not sure if I said Planet Dog or Planet Odd because we had both. So Planet Odd, and that team didn't do so well. And after that, he took a break. But he's been playing a lot of pubs. He even reached rank 1 at one point. So
and he did
the skill
play
is
with
there.
PPD in Optic for a bit, but then obviously was no longer playing with Optic. And so I'm curious. PPD and him are back together, and so I'm always curious if the team changes was it Saska taking a break? Was it something not working out in the team? Has PPD changed his mind? You know, like what caused that roster change, and now they're back together only like 8 months later?
Yeah, probably because you can only play with 5 players. You can't play with 6. That could be the reason. PPD has a good eye for upcoming talent and always gathers a good team around him. So maybe there was just not enough space for Saxa in that team.
All right, so who else? Alliance is actually the same team they've been for a while. We didn't see anything from them for a while because I think Mickey had arm surgery or something. And so yes. Alliance just took a break rather than changing their roster.
Alliance is a team that a lot of people still have really good memories because of their run. And they want... Alliance is the same section as Navi. People wanted to make it work because it's kind of these old good things that we had in Dota. This Alliance lineup, I saw some of their games in the previous season. There's a lot of potential in that team. I also talked to Insania, really cool, calm guy.
Insania and Mickey are like some of my favorite players. I know I played with Mickey like in some of his first Dota games way back when Kezu and the old Sync were thinking about switching over to Dota. And so like I remember playing pubs with them and learning a stupid amount from them, even though it was like their 5th Dota game ever.
Yeah.
And they brought over so much from Han. They're insane.
He's a contrast, yeah.
Yeah.
I shared the room with Insania at one event when we were doing some qualifiers for, what was it, ESL Open Qualifier or something. So pretty cool guy, I gotta say, and I hope this team make it work. All of their players are in top 50, I think. So
yeah, I'd like to see Alliance do well. The nostalgia alone, even though it's none of the same players, would be cool.
We have the final tribe. They swapped things around. They brought in Chessie. So Chessie is gonna be their position 2 player, even though he played 1 for complexity. And Era is moving to position 5. He played 1 and 2 sometimes, which also means that Frost is going to be playing the position 1. The final tribe, I think the new season, the new rules is going to be really great for a team like a final tribe, because they're going to be playing in the minors and they can qualify to majors by just winning a minor. Yeah, so
just winning, no big deal.
Yeah. They had some good run. They played at GSC in the previous season.
Right. They did really well at that.
Yeah. They also qualified for China super major, didn't do too well. The competition was better. There's obviously a gap between these teams, but still good experience for the final tribe.
Yeah, the minors will definitely give pretty much all these teams that we're talking about a chance to actually show up at a LAN, get the experience they need, so that if they make it to a major, maybe they won't choke and they'll actually handle the pressure.
Yeah, you can feel the kind of difference between Europe and CIS. I think the tier 2 scene in CIS is way stronger than in Europe. There are still couple of more teams in Europe that we need to mention.
Yeah, would you say that the tier 1 team scene in Europe is stronger though? I feel like tier 1 in CIS is a smaller pool, and then their tier 2 is a lot bigger and stronger. But then in Europe, their tier 1 is much better, so their tier 2 kind of suffers because of that.
Yeah, I would say that there's a huge gap between tier 1 scene in Europe and the tier 2 scene. Like these, you have OG, you have Team Secret, you have Liquid, and then none of these teams can pretty much take a best of 3 out of these top 3 teams in Europe. While in CIS, I think anyone can beat anyone pretty much at one point, besides VP, I would say, which is pretty much the favorites. So the teams that we still need to talk about in Europe are Burden United, that's Arc, Mastermind, Pwn, Undershock, and Comewithme. Really interesting set of players. They have 2 Russians, Serbian, Romanian, and the Bulgarian guy, not the mix that you see way too often. Arc played for Double Dimension and I think some, was it? Yeah, he played for Penta as well, but that didn't work for them. He was kind of a stand-in, but just didn't fit the team after I talked with DNZ what happened. Other names also pretty known. Undershock played for some of the big tier 2 CIS teams, and Comewithme is making a comeback, or what it seems to be. I saw him being ranked like 1,000 at Europe, then took games more seriously and ended up being in top 100.
He's been around for a very long time.
Yeah, so. I mean, I played with Comewithme at was it TI1? Yes.
Yeah, because I was like, he's an online kingdom, right? Yeah.
Yes. And the one more team that we need to mention, that's Happy Guys. That's Syndren's team. Everyone loves Syndren.
Yeah.
With a reason. So they want his team to succeed. We have Boogie. He played for Penta in the previous season. I would say the weakness of Boogie is that he makes a lot of strange item decisions. Like he loses the game for his team with weird items, at least the ones that I saw. Kazar, not sure who that is.
He's got the red page.
Could be an alias of someone, not sure. Illidan Strength, known figure in the CIS scene, moved to Europe, at least to play in Europe. Illidan always had the problem with doing I call that stuff Illidan thing. Like they're winning the game and then he just decides to take one more unnecessary step and then everything just falls apart after that. During the previous season, he kind of lowered that stuff down, so he improved a lot in my eyes. And this is the player to watch out for, Aframoosh. He played in SEA C region for quite some time in Clutch Gamers and one more team, can't remember right now. But this is the player to look out for. Like this could be a big upcoming position for talent. Played some pubs with him. All eyes on him, I would say.
Syndren kind of feels like what we were talking about with Team Empire. how Empire tends to be like the scouting team. It almost feels
Yeah.
like Synderen is the scouting captain of EU. You know, he doesn't make it into tier 1 himself, but he's really great at taking players and molding them into tier 1 for them to move on and him to go back to casting.
Yeah, exactly. And one more team I would mention that's Mango Bay. It's Faye, Garter, Bone 7, Coupe, and Flash. I'm not sure who Flash is. Coupe, meet him a lot in my pubs. He tends to play a lot of Pudge, spams Pudge, one of the greatest pub players in the world. I would say Bone 7. Bone 7, I have a lot of nostalgia towards him. During his C9 times, he was, I would say, the best offlaner at that time, and then just disappeared. Like,
Yeah,
you couldn't see him. He played for some really bad teams. Maybe it's because the teams didn't do well, so you can't see him doing that great. But
yeah, that
like,
was
if someone
stepped
would
in on
ask me,
NP,
yes,
right? Yeah.
yeah, if someone would ask me, like, who's one of the best players that we had, and now you can't see him, I would probably say Bone 7. Garter also always played for these tier 2 teams. Likes to switch teams a lot. Faye, a Polish guy, he played for ATN before. I would say that this guy has a lot of skill, was under my radar. Same with Nisha, even though Nisha is a better player in my book, definitely. But this team could cause some upsets, I would say.
And then I think the last one would just be Team Lithium. So they qualified during the open qualifier. It's like the first Kezu team we've seen without Synderen, actually. And then it's got the Adfinim guys, Madara, and maybe next time on the team. I don't know who Peksu is, though.
Oh, Peksu is a Finnish guy who played for 5 anchors, no captain. They always have some funny names. I don't think they're taking Dota that seriously, in my opinion. But these guys all played pro, so could be the reason that they took him, because he wants to play more professionally. And they have Mage, that's the Jordanian guy. Same goes for the guy we just talked about. Where is he? I can't find him. Aframush, yeah. Also great talent. And this guy could also end up in a bigger team this season, I would say.
Yeah, I'm hoping. Kezu's always had like a really strong work ethic for just straight up grinding. And so I'm curious, and I think that, you know, the Adfinim guys are used to that because they stuck together for forever and worked really, really hard to eventually have that crazy run in Boston. So I have high hopes for this team. I think that would be cool to see them have some upsets or do well at a minor.
Yeah, we'll have to see. A lot of interesting stuff in Europe, which is gonna contribute to the tier 2 scene, which was dying in Europe region in the previous one.
All right, so same question as CIS. What team? What new team? All right, Liquid, Secret, they're going to be great. OG, once they start playing again and, you know, after they take their break, they're going to be awesome. I mean, my money's just on Shangri-La because Optic did really well. This is a ton of experience. It's a good captain. And so that's who I would assume will kind of like join the tier 1 scene in Europe.
Yes,
those guys.
Yes, definitely. That's PPD's team. I don't see other teams making a huge upsets to tier 1 teams in Europe, I would say. So we're gonna, instead of having 3 big names, I think we're just gonna have 4 big names in Europe.
Maybe. We'll see. With only 5 majors. Although EU gets 3 slots. And so we'll see those 4 teams pretty much battle it out for those 3 slots each time. Depending on the tournament, the slot allocation does change randomly according to Valve. Which is always fun when that happens. Alright, so over on into North America. Yeah, it's the region I know things about.
Yeah, it's the strongest region.
Yeah, very strong. You know, they had 3 teams, top 8 at TI. And that was, people were not happy about North America getting 3 slots. So that was definitely interesting to watch them kind of almost dominate. You know, do really well at TI and get all the way up into the top 8 for all the teams.
Almost, yeah.
Yeah, almost.
And just kidding. North America was a kind of a meme because of that. A lot of weird stuff happening in that region, pretty unique as well. But NA deserved 3 slots in the previous one. So we have EG, nothing changed. We have complexity. There's some interesting stuff happening in complexity's roster. We have Scamberloo. That guy played in SEA. I noticed that he played for Geek Fam. Somehow I always end up not casting the SEA region, and that's the region that I know the least of, especially for the open qualifiers, for the regional qualifiers. I know only about the teams that qualify because I never work on this region in particular. So not too much info about this player. And then we have a Limp, the brothers, the second set of brothers split up in complexity. So Limp is going to be the one playing position 2. We have a snaking. I feel like the snaking was a sacrificial lamb for VGJ.Storm. What went wrong for them? It was
well, and when you're choosing, when you have Universe as an option, I think Sneaking is definitely going to take the boot at that point. You know, Universe is pretty much going to be able to be in just about any team he wants to be in, and they will make space for him.
Yes, I would say it was a no-brainer decision for them. Even though Snaking had some good performances during TI, I also think that he kind of choked. I gotta say, I'm always trying to be realistic, not trying to offend anyone, but sometimes you just need to say things that need to be said. On the other hand, we have a Z-Freak, the guy that I want to see more of. This guy is just a complete beast. Like I think he even deserves a better team, in my opinion. Like, he's super individually skilled, and I was surprised, maybe because he didn't want to split with his brother, staying in NA region. There could be some questions to be answered about why he's not in a better team, why he didn't play for better team in the previous season as well. But definitely a guy to look up. What he can do, always plays aggressive, has insane amount of items for position 4 hero, really greedy. And then we go
Eternal Envy in the position 5. I've been waiting for this one. I have known that this is going to happen for a while, because like I said, I did this interview with him a while ago, and the entire interview was basically him saying that he couldn't captain from the 1 position. And he headed into TI with FNATIC, kind of knowing that, but trying to make it work. But you could just kind of hear it in everything he said, that because Envy is one of those guys who he'll do anything he thinks is necessary to win. So he loves carrying, he's always been a carry, but he also has to have control of his teams. And I think after 2 years of captaining, he finally realized that he has to give up carrying in order to captain, and he kind of picked one. And I'm very curious to see how it goes.
I think everyone is happy to see Envy playing position 5, and I'm gonna say this is gonna be his best role, in my opinion, because Envy is an extremely smart guy that has some ideas that are ahead of a time. He just can't implement them. Maybe it's because of the team, maybe it's because of his role, but definitely, I think that this Envy's team look really good. I wasn't so happy about Envy's team for quite some time, I gotta say. Even though I don't know that they're a position 1 player, I would still say that this team is gonna do good, and I'm looking forward to see what they can do.
I also think the new support style that we've had in the last year, the fact that talents actually make you scale, that you have GPM talents, so you're not miserable the entire game. Even little things like the courier changes and observer ward cost changes and everything make playing support significantly less miserable, and you have a much higher impact throughout the whole game. And Envy has such a mind in the late game and such an ability to create space. I mean, when you think about Envy, he's always been almost a space creating carry. And so if you think about his game sense and ability to create space, now if he does it on the 5 position and dies, it's not a big deal anymore.
Yeah, I think this role will suit him the best. And finally, even he realized that he needs to play position 4 or 5 to captain the team. So not too many teams coming out from North America this season that like there's a huge gap between North America #1 and some teams that could cause an upset. So we have old VGJ.Storm, which we talked about. They just swapped the universe instead of snaking. This is a great addition. This team looks way better right now, in my opinion. And they brought AUI as a coach. They had Clairvoyance, and they had who is it?
It wasn't Illidan.
Illidan. Yeah, it was.
It was Illidan.
Yeah. So he worked with them. So they decided to get rid of 2 coaches because they got penalty during TI, and now they only have 1. I think AUI will bring some interesting ideas to the team as well. Even though even though I spoke to Jack about Clairvoyance because I didn't know much about that guy, and Grant also confirmed that this guy is really knowledgeable.
But I think AUI is... I think he's a very smart player. We saw what he did at TI5 with techies.
And when I say Grant confirmed, it doesn't mean shit. When Grant confirms anything, it's just my random thought.
No, Clairvoyance has coached several teams. I think he's pretty respected, even though he hasn't had a ton of success himself personally playing. I think coaching-wise, he's pretty well respected, which is important because right now, with coaches being allowed in the drafting stage and a lot of teams almost kind of being ahead of the captain in far as like determining strategy and stuff, you have to respect them. And I think Clairvoyance, was probably great, but AUI, TI winner, like beloved community member of NA, I think he has a very good effect at diffusing any situation. Like he just makes some off the cuff, like half sarcastic remark, and just like no matter what is happening. And so him, MSS, and SVG were all together on Team NP. And so I spent a lot of time around that team and like did content with them and stuff. And they just, MSS is happy-go-lucky all the time. SVG is just like, I hate the world, everyone go die. But in like this weirdly cheery way, like not like depressing goth way. And then I was just like sitting there making fun of them.
When you mentioned the word...
SVG's interesting, but I don't think a lot of people know him as a personality, right? Like, he hasn't spent enough time on the Summit couch for people to understand what he's like. But his dynamic captaining this team just cracks me up because he is, like, super negative, but in this weirdly positive way. Like, you're never upset that he's making fun of you all the time. Like, it's still funny.
The PMA attitude. When you mentioned the word goth, the first thing when someone says Clairvoyance is one of his pictures that we had during King's Cup. He's standing in a leather coat that almost touches the ground. It's really goth style, and like that's one of the weirdest pictures stuck in my mind, Dota related.
Clairvoyance, goth coat. King's Cup, that was a Summit thing, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was a little bit before one of the summits, and yeah, hopefully we're gonna have a season 2 upcoming soon.
Nice. All right, so who else? We've got Team, which brings back some names that we haven't seen for a while. So mostly Brax, IX Mike, and Newsham. We kind of see them around. Usually they pop up right before TI to kind of make a run through the qualifiers. And so I'm interested to see if this team actually sticks around. Because these players, to me, they look like players who get motivated after TI, and they get motivated before TI. And somewhere in the middle, we sort of lose sight of them completely.
Yeah, I'm happy that Brax is playing again. Brax is one of the nicest guy in the NA scene, I would say, really humble, and he's amazingly skilled. I had an opportunity to play with Brax, just some pubs, and watch him play. Extremely mechanically skilled player. I was surprised that he didn't actually try to play pro again. He was always playing casting, but more focusing on his casting. 747, he is in the scene for quite some time, hopping between the teams, which is pretty common. In NA, Newsham as well. He played for Leviathan, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, that's
also,
the big one.
Yeah, Costabile. That's kind of a new name in the NA scene, because in the previous one we had two American players playing for SG. We had Francis Lee and Stanking playing for SG. Now Costabile moved to probably North America and is gonna play with them. And
Yeah,
we have Ike's. Mike, not too much to say about this guy. He's Tom Selleck of Dota 2.
Yeah, we're finally seeing NA and SA actually start mixing, just like we're seeing EU move over into CIS.
Yeah.
We're finally seeing like almost full region fluidity. Like China's mostly still untouched and isolated, but all the other regions are starting to move around a lot. When we get Southeast Asian players in South America is when we really know we hit maximum fluidity.
Yeah, Dota knows no religion. Dota knows no nation. Dota has no boundaries. Dota just unites people all over the world in this gigantic bubble of love, I would say.
Which we have March out of Army. So March is back to playing. We have a great team name for him.
Yeah, I gotta say, the name is really hilarious. March out of the Army too. So basically, this team consists of Old Wind and Rain roster, which almost managed to qualify for the international this year.
Yeah, this roster looks
they lost to OG.
very strong.
Yeah, my good friend Milan plays, and I have a lot of info about what they're doing and how the team is going. So March, I would say, extremely skilled guy. He made some interesting points during the TI, and he's playing with his old buddy Forev. So there's some synergy between them.
Yeah, and Forev did great on Team Secret.
Yeah.
And, then moved on, as many Team Secret players do after the year. And Bryle has seemed like a really strong young talent. He had that brief stint playing with what was it? It was like AUI and Moon and, whoever that DC roster was that they very temporarily signed and played at one of the GESCs. So Bryle looked really strong on that.
Yeah, Bryle I think he's really young. But I think, could be, because I remember one of the times during casting some NA games, someone mentioned that he was in school and couldn't play something or something similar to that. So kind of stuck into my mind. And we have Moo. Moo has been playing pretty much the off lane all the time, and now he's playing position 1. So
I think the new off lane the safe lane? Isn't off lane the new safe lane? So it makes sense.
Yeah, because there's not much difference, because you get more. You pretty much win your off lane, lose your safe lane. That's how it goes. And Moo, a player that is kind of underrated in my book, doesn't get the attention that he needs to get.
Well, he did get second at TI, so he has that going for him. But he was also the one player that was kicked after that.
That's true as well. Maybe that's the reason, because why I think that he's underrated. Mm-hmm. Definitely a player to look out for.
Yeah, and I think that team has a nice mix of experience on it, like with March and Forev, and they've had a lot of success in the past. And then like young talent like Bryle, who has been playing but has had issues because he is so young. So I think he probably just finished high school. So I would say that he's probably able to really commit full time to playing now. So we might see a lot of really good things out of him. And then Moo has had a second place at TI. He's, you know, been in the most stressful of situations. So as long as he adapts to the one position, which I think with the meta the way it is right now should be fine.
The only one who I'm afraid of is actually my friend Milan, because he also tends to choke a little bit on the big lands. Usually he performs really well online. He just needs a little bit more of experience, in my opinion. Also, I remember during the TI 7 when he played with Hellraisers. Also, not the best performance, but a lot of raw skill in him, and has some really great ideas, understands the game completely, but maybe just needs to relax a little bit more on the land.
And sometimes teammates can help with that, right? That's why you see
Yeah.
a captain like Puppey can take anybody and make them win and do well because you respect him and you listen, and you don't have to do as much yourself because, you know, the captain is taking a lot of that pressure off of you and you just perform. And so if this is the right team for him, you know, maybe Moo is a calming influence, or Forev is someone that you can rely on, or you really trust March, and it kind of takes the pressure off so that you don't choke as much. So we might see him succeed just because of the experience around him.
Yeah, definitely. Sometimes you just need the right players around you so you can work in that environment. And I don't think we have anything in North America. Like, there's a gap. These teams are just teams that pretty much play for fun. These are the Blue Pikachu teams in the previous season, and I don't see anyone else worth
and
mentioning.
You look at the other open qualifier teams, there's Jenkins has a team, but there's nobody else you really know on it. One of the other teams that qualified was Skrr, which I actually casted them qualifying, and I mean, they were okay, but the open qualifiers did not have a lot of depth for North America.
Yeah, that's pretty much it from North America. Huge gap between.
Yeah, especially with PPD moving over to Europe. Yeah,
they lost one thing they can brag about. They lost PPD.
Yeah, that's NA doesn't have a lot of captains, and so when PPD moves over to EU, you're pretty much auto making a tier 1/2 team. They'll have to prove it, but when you have a proven captain move over, join up with a bunch of other experienced players, like, it's gone. That's one team in NA eliminated entirely because of losing a captain. And Balba is, I'm assuming, still coaching EG.
Yes.
And so you kind of lose a player there. You've lost AUI because he's moved over into coaching. And so you're left, you've got SVG. Kyle is no longer playing, he's casting now. So you've lost another captain there. So I think this will actually be a rough year for NA. After a really strong year, NA then sort of lost all their captains again. They're like, all right, we're back to 2 teams.
Well, we're going to have rivalry again with EU and NA, which pretty much everyone likes.
Yeah, it's always fun.
If we are not fighting in-game, we're fighting on Reddit.
You have to keep the scene alive with drama somehow.
Exactly.
Right, I don't want to go through all of South America, but I think it is relevant in discussing, you know, losing captains, people moving around, what happened with Pain. So we lose Duster, which is really unfortunate to lose Duster out of Pain because he was super fun to watch there. But, you know, Misery was coaching them and he kind of stepped in and took over. And Misery is one of those captains that, you know, NA had for a bit on DC with that, you know, they were an NA team. It counted when they were winning. And then Weehaw's also just kind of stayed in South America, which I don't know if people expected to see happen. I think they kind of expected that he would play with Pain for TI and then kind of move back over to EU.
Well, I didn't expect that because I love to talk with Pain when we were on the land, a bunch of cool guys, and I suggested to them that they should bring the coach from the Western scene. So they have, like, you could see, let's say a year ago, that South America was doing not so good compared to what how they're doing right now, because they had the skill, they had everything, just a little bit of a different mindset, someone that they can guide them how to pick, how to ban against some of the Western teams. Like just bring a little bit of a different knowledge to their region.
Yeah, and that's definitely what South America lacked, was just almost the international experience to know what to do against these teams. And they get a lot more slots this year, so they'll have 2 at this major, and then they'll have at least 1 at the minor. And so we'll see 2 to 3 South American teams every DPC round getting international experience. I think that's going to deepen this scene a lot, just getting a few teams there. Especially if we see more EU moving over. And experienced captains. That's the big thing, is you need the captain who's been through it all before.
Yeah.
And that's hard when you had a scene that was so isolated. I think that's it. Did we touch on everyone you wanted to go over?
Yeah, we talked about South America, North America, and CIS plus Europe. I don't have that much knowledge behind the scenes from the Chinese scene and SCA as well. Yeah.
Are there any rosters we're waiting on? Like, is there any? So the lock is tomorrow, I believe. So is there any? I guess the big one is we haven't seen any news about Dendi.
True.
We know OG, Liquid, VP, they're all staying together. I think they've all announced that. So we're kind of waiting to see what happens to Dendi, if he plays, if he gets picked up by anyone. Is there anyone else big that's kind of floating in the wind right now? I don't think so.
Not that comes to my mind right now. I think everyone is pretty much set.
Yeah. I'm curious to see if we'll ever see Balba or AUI go back to playing, or if they've kind of settled into their coaching roles.
Like there's a time for a player. I mean, they all still play, so from time to time you get a desire back, so you want to play the game again.
All right, well, cool. Rivalry roster rundown complete. Still not easy to say. But I don't know. I'm excited to see what happens with this season. I think the new DPC is going to be really well balanced, because we're actually going to get third-party tournaments where points aren't on the line. And so I think we'll actually see teams experiment a little more, and we'll get some more micro metas out of like ESL or the Summit or MDL, like all these tournaments that have been announced that aren't DPC. I think it's going to be fun to see those. And this minor system is going to help out tier 2 teams, but I actually think the third-party system will help them out a lot too, because ESL is right before, it's like late October, but the Malaysia major is, so I think the minor and ESL are almost the same time. And so we might see major teams playing at ESL to warm up for the major. But I think we'll also see teams that didn't make it to the minor and didn't make it to the major show up at ESL. Just because they can, schedule-wise.
Yeah, we had, in my opinion, the best TI so far. And I think this season is going to be the best that we're going to have. With all the new rules, pretty much there's not too much skill gap between tier 1 and tier 2 teams, and the new system is going to balance those things out.
All right, well, thank you, Lacoste, for the Rivalry roster rundown, all the information, and taking us through it all. And I'm looking forward to this next season of DPC, and since we are on YouTube and there's a lovely comment section, I would love for people to tell us what they think of the rosters and who their favorites are for the upcoming season. Thanks for watching, guys.